Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to start a brand new series about data structures. Data structure is a very important topic in computer science and software engineering. My current plan is to first go over some of the basic structures such as linked list, stacks, and queues. After that, I will cover some of the more complex structures like binary trees, heaps, hash tables, and so on. And I'll be using Python through the whole series. The reason that I choose Python is because data structure is like a common knowledge across all kinds of programming languages. And Python has a really great readability. Even if you know nothing about Python syntax, you can still understand Python code. So I want people who watch my video to understand these data structures regardless of which programming language they're coming from. But just in case you don't know anything about Python, in this first video of the series, I will cover some of the built-in data structures in Python that I'll be using throughout the whole series. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'll be using Visual Studio Code, and I have a folder called data structure. Let's create a new folder inside of it. Let's call it Python basics. And under Python basics, let's create a new file. So in this video, I'm going to cover list and tuple. So let's call it list and tuple.py. All right, so first let's talk about list. List in Python is a ordered sequence, and it is mutable and allows duplicates. So list mutable ordered sequence allows duplicates. So first, let's see how to define a list. So in Python, lists are defined using brackets. So if I say L equals brackets, then L is a list in Python. So we can verify that by print out L in the console. So let's save and let's run this. So we got an empty list printed out on the console. And we can also give it some elements. So if I say L equals cat and then and dog, save and run, we got cat and dog. So that's how we define a list. And Python actually allows a list to contain different types of data. So if I have another list, let's call it L2 equals cat and then dog, and these are strings, and we can also have like integers. We can have 9,000. We can have booleans, false. We can also have like doubles. So we can have double numbers. So if I print out L2, we can see that we have a list with more than one type of data. Now let's see how to access each individual list elements. So access list elements. So we can do L2. If we want to get the first element from the list, we can simply accessing it by its index, which usually index starts from 0. So if I put 0 here, it will give us cat. So let's try print and comment this out, we should get cat printed out. So there we go, we got cat. And if we do 3, we should get 0, 1, 2, 3. We should get the false. Yes, we got false. And Python also support getting elements from the back of the list. So if I do -1, it will actually give us the last element from the list. So let's see. So we got 8.12. So that's how we can access elements from both ends of the list. So next, let's see how we can get the total number of elements in the list. So get the total number of elements of a list. So let's print len L2. So we use the len method to get the total number of elements of the list L2. So we should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We should get number 5 print out on the terminal. So let's run this, and we got number 5. Next, let's see how to use range to get a part of the list. So do range, and if I say L3 equals L2, and I specify a starting index of 1 and colon and ending index of 4, and I'll print out L3. So, and let's see what we got. So we got dog, 9,000, and false. So we got starting from index 1. This is our starting index. And we got dog, 9,000, and false. But we stopped at index 4. So everything from index 1, but before index 4 is our list 3. So that's how to use range to specify a part of the list. And we can also add a step in this range. So if I do L3 equals 1 to 4, but instead of a step 1, I want a step 2. So if I do that and print out again, we got dog and false. This time we skipped 9,000 because I want it to increase the step by 2. So we got dog and false. And we can also leave out either the starting index or the ending index, so that the list will start from the beginning or end at the last index. So let's see, if I do 1 colon and leave out the ending index, our list will become dog 9,000, false, and 8.12. So, and I can also specify a increase counter by adding another colon, and I'll say 2, and this time it's dog and false because starting from dog and increase by 2, which is false, and increase by 2, there is no more elements. So if I omit the starting index, so if I say colon 3, and this time we will have this time it will start from the beginning, which is cat, and then dog, and then stop at 9,000. So that's how we can use range to specify a part of the list. Next, let's see how to check if an element is inside of the list. So let's comment this out, and then let's do check if an element exists in the list. So if I do print 9,000 in L2, and let's clear the console, and then let's run this. We got true because 9,000 is indeed present in the L2 list. But if I do, let's say, snake in L2, we got false because snake is not in the L2 list. And we can also use that to loop through a list. So to loop through a list, we do for x in L2 and then print x. So let's comment this out and clear the console and let's run. So we got cat, dog, 9,000, false, and 8.12. So that's how we loop through a list. We can combine the loop and the range to loop through only a part of the list. So if I do L2 and 1 colon, and it will start from dog. So if I run this, now we start looping from the second element of the list. And if I want to loop through the list from the beginning to the end, but with a increase counter of 2, we can do colon, colon, and then 2. So this time we will have start from cat and increase by 2, increase by 2. So let's save and run. So we have cat, 9,000, and 8.12. Next, let's take a look at how to insert and delete elements from a list. So since lists are mutable objects in Python, so they support insertion and deletion operations. First, let's take a look at inserting elements to a list. Let's comment this out, and down here, let's say insert elements to a list. So the first method is to use the append method. So append will add a new element to a list at the end of the list. So if I do L2 dot append, and let's append a string, let's append a snake, snake, and then let's print out L2. So let's save and run this. So we can see that snake, it's appended at the end of the list. We can also use another method called insert to insert a new element at any index you want. So let's comment out the append method. Let's do insert. So L2 dot insert. The insert method actually takes 2 arguments. The first one is the index that you want your new elements to be at, and the second argument is the new elements itself. So for example, I want the new elements to be index 2. So I can do 2 and then the value of the new elements, which is snake. So let's save and run this. So as you can see, we added new elements, snake, at index 2. So index start from 0 and 1, and snake is index 2. And we can also combine 2 lists into one. So for example, down here, let's do combine 2 lists into one. So for example, if I want to combine L and L2 together, I can just do L1 plus, sorry, it's L plus L2 actually. So let's say L3 equals L plus L2, and then let's print L3. So, and comment these two lines out and save and clear the console. Let's run this. And we actually got L, which is cat and dog. Right here, we have L, which is cat and dog, and L2, which is cat, dog, 9000 false, and 8.12. So L3 is the combination of L and L2. And if you don't want to use the plus sign to combine two lists, we can also use the extend method to achieve the same results, basically. So let me show you how to do that. So let's first comment this out. And let's do L3 equals L dot extend L2. But let's print out L3 and see what we got. So let's run this, and we got none. That's because the extend method actually doesn't return anything. Instead, it changes the value of L. So if we do L.extend L2, and then we print out L, and let's run this, now we got the correct results, which is the original cat and dog extended with the new L2 list, which is cat, dog, 9000 false, and 8.12. So that's adding elements to the list. Next, let's take a look at removing elements from the list. So there are two scenarios where when you wanted to remove elements from a list. The first one is to remove by value. The second one is to remove by index. Let's comment out the print statement, and let's say remove element from a list. So if you want to remove by value, you can just simply say L dot remove and the value that you want to remove. For example, I want to remove dog. And now let's print L, and let's see what we got. So let's run this, and we got cat, dog, 9000 false, and 8.12. Notice that only the first dog was removed from the list. Since Python allows duplicates in lists, the remove method only removes the first occurrence of the given value. So just keep that in mind when you use the remove method. And if you want to remove by index, you can use the pop method instead of using remove. So let's comment this out. And let's try to use the pop method. So L dot pop, and the pop method takes one argument, which is the index that you want to delete. Say I want to delete index 4, and let's save, and let's clear the console and run. Well, let's print out the L before the deletion so that we can compare the results. Let's run that. Whoops, let's save and run that again. So the first one is the L before we use the pop method. The second one is we pop the fourth index. So as you can see, we remove the 9000 from the list, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the fourth index. So that's how we use pop method to remove items by index. All right, so I think that's about it for lists for now. Next, we're gonna move on to talk about tuples. Tuples are a very similar data structure to lists, but it is immutable, which means once it is created, you can never change its content. The only operations allowed are accessing its elements, and you can loop through it. You can see how many elements are in a tuple, but you cannot do insert or delete elements. So down at the bottom, let's say tuple, and the tuples are immutable, ordered, sequence, it also allows duplicates. So first, let's see, define a tuple. So tuples are represented in Python using parentheses. So if I say t1 equals parentheses, and then let's actually copy the content of L2. So let's copy and paste in here, and this is our t1. So let's save. Let's try to print that out. So print t1, and let's comment out all the other print statements. So save and clear console. Let's run. So we got a tuple. You can tell this is a tuple because it is inside of a opening parent and a closing parent. The content is the same as the list. So that's how we define a tuple. And if you want to define a tuple that only contains one element, so for example, I have t2 equals parentheses and then just cat. Python doesn't recognize this as a tuple. If you want to have only one element in the tuple, and you must append a comma after the first element and save that, so that it's a tuple. So I can print out t2 as well and save and run. So we got t1, which is this, and t2, which only has one element, which is cat. And accessing tuple elements are the same with accessing list elements. We use brackets. So access tuple elements. We can just do print t1 and brackets, and we can say 3 and save, and then let's run. We got false, so which is t1, which is false. This is index 3. So let's comment this out, and that's accessing the tuple elements. We can also use range as we use range in lists. So range, it's the same thing. So print t1 and then brackets, and we can do start from index 2 and then colon, save. Let's comment this out and then run. So we're starting from index 2, which is 9,000, all the way until the last index. The range is the same with lists, and looping is the same. So loop tuple. So I'll loop a tuple. For t in t1, print t. So we should get everything in the tuple printed out. So let's run. So we got everything printed out. We can also use the same method to get the length of a tuple. So length of a tuple. So print length and then t1. So let's comment these 2 lines out and let's run this. So we got 5. So there are 5 elements in the tuple t1. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So tuples are pretty similar to lists. It's just immutable, so we cannot do insertion or deletions. And in the next video, I'm gonna talk about sets and dictionaries. So thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.